Namaste and welcome everyone to Satsang today. Sadhguru Shri Muji Baba ki Jai. What shall we do now? I feel like I always ask this question and then inevitably speak for 2 hours. Silent sitting, silent sitting. Thank you, thank you. Is the sound okay with this? Music, music, music. Okay. What requests?
Shambho, 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 Shambho. Shambho, 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 Shambho,
Very good. So one says, "Hello, Father. How to step from doer and no doer to everything happening by itself? Love you. Love you too." So it's very simple. You see, there's a mental construct which makes this movement a doing. What is the mental construct which makes this movement a doing? Yeah. Now the thing is, very often in Satsang and in Advaita Vedanta, what can happen is that it makes this construct a not doing. You see? So we have gone from calling this a doing to calling this a not doing, but still captured or caught up in the notion of doership. You see? So it is not enough to change the label, the construct, and say doer to non-doer, doing to not doing. So we have made doing out of a happening, happening out of an appearance, and an appearance out of nothing. So when we are trying to resolve things at the level of doing and not doing, we are actually speaking of a third level construct. Too much? So how to step from doer and non-doer? Already the question is very good because you are able to notice that both are positions. You can take the doership position and you can take the non-doership position. And then you say to everything happening by itself. But even that would be then a new position. We are looking for a good hammer by which we can beat all these suffering concepts. You see? So we're looking now for a new hammer which says, but everything is happening by itself. You see? So then with that hammer, we can squeeze, we can punch out all the guilt, resentment, unworthiness, all of these doing related suffering. But what it will not stop is that your desire to want something to happen, which you want to happen, even though it may be happening by itself. You see? So till you investigate who is the doer, or even who is not the doer. In fact, that has become one of my favorite questions to ask now, because it's very popular in Advaita Vedanta to now say, but I am not the doer. So we must explore who is this I, who is not the doer. Who is the non-doer I? And if you are still that one, then what was left of you was just a powerless me still existent in its limitation and having the capability to desire, you see, and still having the notion of duality. So the two Ds out of the three still won't go like that. Duality, desire, and doership are the three Ds of the ego. And many times we just uh, conclude that I am this me, I am a person, but what I realize is that I am not the doer. So the point of spirituality is not to bring you to this kind of recognition, to see that I am a powerless person at the end of the day. It is to see that there is no such person at all. You see, that you are this light of consciousness in which the whole world is appearing and disappearing. In fact, beyond this light of consciousness, that very source from where even this comes, is what you are. You see? So, provisionally for some, the notion that I am not the doer can provide some relief, and that is helpful. So, I'm not in opposition, of course, to that. But as long as we remember that it's a provisional idea. So, to ask who is the one who is not the doer, and if it doesn't exist, that one, then why do you call it I? You see? So we have continued to call ourselves the false I. Only now what may have changed is that we removed the attribute of doership from it, you see, and made it the puppet I, maybe, not the doer. Just wait for things to happen to me. That's not your reality. So this answer I already gave you, which is ask yourself who is the one who is not the doer. Next one says, Namaste, Father. Always moving in the bus named Fresh with you and all the Sangha members, and not leaving the bus to buy any stale vegetables now. That's a very good report. That's a very good report. And in this bus, there is no why. You see? And also, there is no are we there yet? All parents are very familiar with this question. When they are on road trips, they're constantly hearing this question from the children, are we there yet? So if you get on my bus, please don't ask me this question, are we there yet? I have enough of that already. Very good report. Okay, next one says, Anantaji, I have a question. Is there a difference between self-realization and the Jnani state of consciousness? During the Rishikesh retreat, Guruji had mentioned in one of the satsangs that the Jnani state of consciousness was not really needed and just simple self-recognition was sufficient to run this world. Can you please talk to that? But you already answered that. It's not needed. Just you go for simple self-recognition. Mhm. You want me to contradict my father? So you say in the question itself that during the Rishikesh retreat, Guruji had mentioned in one of the satsang that the Jnani state of consciousness was not really needed and just simple self-recognition was sufficient to run this world. That's it. So once we come to this simple self-recognition, then let's see if the question about any state of consciousness remains in that way. So don't worry about it. What will you do with the answer? You'll make a benchmark out of it. It'll give you more um, columns, rows in your report card, where you'll constantly check yourself against those and say, I have not got to the Jnani state yet. You see? Or even if you come into the report card and say, I have got to the Jnani state yet. Either way could be troublesome. That's it. Everyone is done. That's nice. No more press conference now. Everyone is sorted. Oh, it's coming. It's coming. Okay, one says, we know we are not the body because there is an awareness of the body, but there is a distinction between the body through which sensations are perceived and bodies through sensations are not perceived. Okay, so first, let's look at the first part of what you said. We know we are not the body because there is an awareness of the body. You see? Now, any because or therefore or any such term shows to me that something is still being inferred. You see? And maybe that is the first step of Vedanta, where you say, yes, I perceive it. It does not perceive me. I am aware of this perception. The perception is not aware of me. Therefore, I, more intimately, am this awareness. Now, I am showing you that you don't even need this inference. You don't even need this inference. Right now, without using any intellect, without using any understanding, it is just apparent to you who you are. Stay with me, because it is not apparent to your mind who you are. But it is apparent to you who you are. So those who feel like it is apparent in the way that I'm saying, could you use the raise hand thing on Zoom, or raise your hand physically? See, Yogi Ji is there, his hand is raised. Okay, good, good, good. Thank you. Easy. So, this apparency, which I have been reiterating now for many months, you see, is impossible for your mind to attain, and yet you have it. You see, this is self-knowledge. Nisargadatta Maharaj called this the only capital that you are born with and you will die with. The only thing you really have. This is not a thing really. You see? So this is what I want to introduce you to. Because if you're still relying on some inference to come to a conclusion about who you are, then all those conclusions are present in many, many books and scriptures. You don't really need to come to satsang. You see? To come to satsang means you come open to a recognition which is beyond any conceptual understanding. You see? And I have to be honest and say that I have not come across anyone who has come to this true understanding without, you see, without being in satsang with a living master. I have heard stories about this, of course, and it is completely possible in consciousness. Everything is possible. But the main point of coming to a living master is to come to this non-conceptual insight, because all conceptual insights are present in books. This reminds me of a funny story. You know, somebody asked a master, they asked the master, Master, do I need to come to a living master or should I just read my books? So the master said, why don't you try asking the book that? So, so this sort of strangeness, why am I calling it strangeness? Because it is always known. And yet there seems to be a cloud which makes us search for it. And most of humanity seems to be searching for something or the other. But the greatest, the highest, is always yours. And the masters have used many metaphors for this. The diamond is in your pocket. You're sitting on the box of treasure already. So I read a quote the other day, and it was attributed to Ananta, but I don't recall saying it, but I liked it. So I'm going to use that one. It was said in that quote that if you're searching, then you can be sure that you're searching in the wrong place. If you're searching, then you can be certain that you're searching in the wrong place. Because the place in which you have to look, there you cannot seek. You know of this place? That way you have to look, there you cannot seek. So in the world you can seek, in your mind you can seek, even in your internal, so-called internal perceptions you can seek. Where will you find this one? Where can you look without having to seek? So I'm trying to elevate your inquiry from wondering about the body sensations, because that is just, this waking state is not at all different in its experience from the dream state. But we don't ask this question in the dream state saying, Master, the entire dream appears within me. The entire dream appears within me. And yet it is possible to see thousands and thousands of bodies in the dream also. How is it that I don't perceive the sensations of those bodies when I'm in the dream state and taking the dream to be real? Do those perceptions exist? Can you really say? Or they don't exist? Can you really say? So don't worry about these things which you cannot really say. I'm pointing you to that which you, once you see, it will become an undoubtable seeing, and you won't even need to use your mind, intellect, perception to come to this discovery. One says, Anantaji, are the situations in life accidental, or are they born out of desires? Now, why do we exist? Was it accidental, or was it born out of a desire? That's a question that seekers and philosophers have chased for many, many thousands of years. And what is the explanation? God wanted to play. That's why it's called the Leela. Or God wanted to taste its own manifest aspect. Or God wanted to get the taste of love or the contrast. Now, the problem with all of these definitions is that it presumes desire to be present in God itself. And what is the spiritual seeker told? The seeker is told, you must not have a desire. And yet, we very lightly speak about God's desire. So how is it that the seeker is not allowed to have this desire, and yet God is allowed to have wants? So what is going on? What's going on is because our intellect is limited, you see, and we feel a bit wobbly without having conceptual conclusions about this. Why the creation of this world? Why do I exist? You see? Therefore, because the wobbliness sometimes gets too much and it seems like it becomes suffering, we need the balm of some answer which can get our intellect to become quiet. But there's nobody who can say that any of these answers are true. For your reality, you see, the distinction between accidental or planned doesn't really exist. We say, for example, Guru Kripa Kevalam. All is the Sadguru's grace. It is also said that not a blade of grass moves unless it is the will of God. So now these answers don't carry a fundamental truth in them, but they just appeal to our human intellect, you see, and are able to provide some sort of answer to the mind so that it can keep quiet and stop troubling us. But I want all of you to be able to go beyond your intellect. Look at your need to understand and see what that understanding has actually given you. Have you been left with any truths in your head? Do you really know anything in your mind? You have tried to understand and understand and understand for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. What do you know now? Now, there will come a fear which says, but that is too scary. If I let go of my conceptual knowledge, then I will be lost. You see, but this is just not true, and you must try this out. You see? Have you seen an ant carrying food and a row of ants, how they coordinate among themselves, how they build their ant hill, and it's such a beautifully created structure. A lot of engineering, a lot of design, all of that. So how does all this knowledge fit into an ant's brain? So there's a deeper intelligence that is running this universe. And these bodies, this what we call humanity, just an aspect of that intelligence. So in your primal nakedness, empty of any conceptual fig leaves, all that you need to know is already there with you. And to try and gather that which is so primal, it's primordial, you see, that, and we try to gather that in our intellect, in our minds, and that does nothing except give us the false illusion of knowing, false knowledge. You see? And that itself is the ego. So what you can experiment with right now is to see that if you let go of your mind, if you let go of your intellect, you see, it doesn't mean that it has to stop. It's just that you don't catch, you see, you leave your baseball glove away, you don't catch the stuff which your mind is throwing at you, You let it fall to the ground. You don't even have to drop anything. Just don't catch it. Let all the balls which the mind is throwing at you, let them all fall to the ground. Tell me the point at which you become lost. At which point do you lose yourself? And the beauty of this is that even if you do put on your baseball glove back for a moment, and you end up fielding and catching a few balls which are thrown at you, you see, the next moment you can put it back. You have not really lost anything. The truth of what you are is always with you. So we must come to a point where we stop dealing in question and answers, and we must deal in question and answers only to the point that the answer, when it is heard, shakes us out of that playground where that game of question and answers is happening. You see? The point of the answer that comes in satsang is not to tell you the truth. It is only to shake you out of that playground, or like a mother who comes to the playground to get her child back from the playground, saying, "Come home now, enough." You see, it is not to give you a way to play better. If you understand this, you will save yourself lifetimes. Let this be the final thing you need to understand. You see, let your understanding be that it cannot be understood, you see, and yet it is always known. So in one playground where all of this mentation is happening, all this inferring and equations and awareness plus consciousness equals Brahman, you see, all of this stuff is going on. You leave that whole playground away for a moment. Let it be. Whatever dance is happening there, you let it happen. See that there is more to you than that. You see? That is simple self-knowledge, simple self-recognition. Okay, one question says, Father, doer and non-doer states arise at times of decision making. Certain situations which demand decision making, decisions, if not arrived at properly, may impact others negatively and can have consequences. Sense of responsibility arises, anxiety and guilt and pain ensues. Father, Please guide me out of this ignorance. You see? Now, let's go back to this question. Is this a doing? According to the traditional way of thinking, the usual human way of thinking, it is, isn't it? Ananta decided to move his hand, and Ananta moved his hand. Now, there are many problems with that. One is the most important problem, of course, is that there is no Ananta. The second problem is that even if there was an Ananta sitting inside this body, suppose it is the mind who is Ananta, then the mind does not know how to move this hand. The mind does not know how to fire the nervous system. So who is it that is here if Ananta is not here? And who is it that has the intelligence to move this hand, to move the nerves? Who is that? Must be the same one who is beating your heart. The same one that is making digestion happen. The same one that makes all of this light and sound and gravity and electricity and all of this play out. Make the trees grow and the flowers bloom. Now, to take the existence of the non-existent one to be our reality, you see, is the first doorway to suffering. Then to give it attributes like intelligence and the ability to do and not do is really the second punch of the 1-2 punch combination. And what is apparent in your report is the idea of good versus bad. If I do this, it may go positively. If I don't do that, or if I did that, it was a mistake and it was led to negative conclusions. If it is possible that way, then the Kevalam part of Guru Kripa Kevalam is not possible. Then it is just lip service to say that only the Master's grace is. See? How can it be true that only the Master's grace is, and then there could be things other than the Master's grace, which means there could be negative things which happen, things which are not supposed to happen can happen. See? Then how is it true if things which are not supposed to happen can happen? Then all these statements like all is the will of God, God is the all powerful, all knowing, all pervasive. And if you are saying to me that yes, you accept that all of these are also just provisional statements, then you must also have to accept that there is no way that this distinction of positive and negative and good and bad and better and worse, you see, can exist in this reality except its proposition coming to you in your mind. In fact, this is the false knowledge which is spoken about in the Bible, the fruit of false knowledge, the apple of false knowledge. So the serpent sells it to you. And the serpent in this metaphor, this representation is the mind. To live a life of grace is to live a life of openness. And when we are open, then we are not making these distinctions. And we are allowing full freedom of all aspects of this perceptual world to play out by themselves. That which we think we are is moving your hand as much as it is moving the sun. Can we be clearer than that? That which we think we are is moving your hand as much as it is moving the sun. You see? And that which we actually are is also moving your hand as much as it is moving the sun. How's that for a nice riddle? It's quite simple actually. If there is a doing, a doer, then it must be that which is. You see? That which is not can never do or not do. Then next one says, Dear Father, living with parents can be challenging. They expect attention, while here there is only interest in being by myself and marinating more and more. It is misread as arrogance or disrespect. There is only wish to go deeper and deeper. Don't wish to waste time with this again and again. Yet something seems to get into this trap. Can you please give me some guidance? This battle does not exist. I know sometimes you hate it if I say things like this, you see, because you have invested in the notion of this contradiction. You see? What I mean by this battle does not exist is that there is nothing which can come in the play of these perceptions, you see, which can prevent you from being with yourself. What can come and dance in this dance of perception, which can take you away from yourself? So I don't want to use terms like integration and things like that because that becomes even more confusing. But what I'm saying is that just let whatever has to play out play. You see? If your being with yourself is that shaky that one perception can come and shake it, you see, then use that as your gym. You see? So next time when that happens, just see if what is actually shaken. You see? So, so there can be an idea of what my life should be like versus what life is like. You see? And in the words of Byron Katie, guess which one always wins? You see? What is that she says? Something very nice. No? You can only 100% of the time. Anybody who's watched her or studied her, it's been many, many years since I saw her, but she was very helpful at one point. So I remember there was something she used to say, and she used to say, what happens when you argue with what is? Is it something like that? That you lose, but only 100% of the time. Something like that. Easy. So I've already given you some guidance on this, which is that if really what you say is true, which is that you only want the self, you see, then don't believe the not self. If all you want is tomatoes, then don't go potato farming. If you go digging in the mind, if you create these non-existent contradictions and trying to find an escape, who are we trying to find an escape for? You see? So even the idea that I must go deeper and deeper is just an idea, isn't it? Where is there to go? Is there any depth or shallowness to this? You contemplate this some more, and you're happy to. I'm happy to hear a report back on this if you like. So Nitya remembers me saying that if you're searching, then you are searching in the wrong place. It's not a bad one. I don't mind claiming credit for that. Next one says, after you're explaining my father, I realized that I am holding my person for waiting that what should happen, how to let that go. I know by understanding, but how to do that? Just person just waiting to for step to awareness. Okay, good. So it's well spotted, firstly, but there is really nothing to be done except don't catch the next ball from the mind. And if you catch the next ball from the mind, there's really nothing to be done except don't catch the next ball from the mind. So if it takes you 1 year of spirituality, one satsang, no satsang, 1 year of satsang, 10 years of satsang, 50 years of the spiritual search and satsang, all that we will come to is that we won't catch the next ball from the mind. It doesn't look good on our profiles, on our CVs. It doesn't give us the capability to add a lot of Swami, 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 Shri, Shri, Shri to our name, you see. But simply that's all that this is about. You see? Of course, we want to be able to tell our friends and family that we are on some great quest or something like that. But actually, you're just learning how to not catch the ball. That's all. You see? And now what happens is most of this ball which is thrown at you will have something written on it. No, it'll have BUT written on it, and it comes at you at seemingly great speed. And before we know it, we are doubting. We are in that. But what to do? When will it happen? Hmm? But something. So just learn not to catch this ball. That's all. Ball which is not caught does not cause any trouble to you. And your great collection of baseballs is causing you big trouble. One says, Master, the clicking of your fingers is your highest pointing. Well, it's effective. If you open, it's quite effective. I wouldn't say highest or lowest, although sometimes I would have said highest. But it's effective if you open. For those of you who are here first time, I often say that to become free, to find yourself, you see, just before you hear the sound of the click, you are free. Before the sound of the click. Somebody is written in Hindi. मैं श्वेता जी सूरत से हम आपसे एक बार श्योर मिलना चाहेंगे. लॉकडाउन के बाद अगर पॉसिबल हो तो आपकी समय अनुकूलता, यस, आप ज़रूर मिल सकती हैं। आपका पूरा स्वागत है। आप जब भी आपको मौका मिले और आप आ सकें, ये लॉकडाउन जब एक बार पूरा हो जाएगा, ज़रूर। बहुत अच्छा लगा आपका मैसेज पढ़कर, और मैं देख रहा हूँ कि आप कहाँ हैं। हाँ, you're always welcome to come. Then next one asks, Master, only grace of Guru is enough? Question mark. Is only the grace of the Guru enough? Listening to Guru's pointings is enough to be liberated. What is required? Or what Guru is pointing at? Okay. So only the Master's grace is enough. You see? Now, if you remove the question for what is it enough? Because if you're still holding on to a desire like he will give me this, then although you may be saying that only the master's grace is enough, you actually looking for a tool which will give you something else. You see? So those who are truly devotional temperament, they are happy just with master's grace, whatever it brings to them. You see? So this is the question for you. If master's grace brings you whatever it brings you, even contrary to your highest desire for yourself, would you be happy with that? And that would be surrender, you see. But are you interested in master's grace only because master's grace can get you something that you want? And suppose it was made known to you that no, you cannot get this through master's grace, then will you throw it away like a banana skin? So true devotion is to trust the master's grace, to trust God's grace, the Sadguru's grace, in spite of what it might be seemingly bringing to you, which also we don't have the eyes to recognize actually. So truth for truth's sake, devotion for devotion's sake, not because something will be brought to me because of that. The me itself is getting in the way of you getting that. Your wanting that is getting in the way of you getting that. What is the way to say it? So the non-existent one wants, isn't it? So are we still waiting to feed that non-existent one? That which is, always is. And that has no dilemma of freedom or no freedom. Liberation or bondage does not apply to that. So if you love the Guru, then just love the Guru. But don't love the Guru because Guru will give you something. Where is she? Got a message from Izzy. Hello and love from Izzy. Where is she? Maybe she's not on camera. Good to hear from you, my dear. Hope you're doing well and your brother and you are not getting on each other's nerves too much. A little bit, I'm sure you would be. But I love the metaphor with catching the ball. Yeah, I feel like it's quite easy and convenient. Very good, very good. One says so simple, so simple. Yes, yes. Such lightness and peace. One says, I'm listening to this as I paint a hallway. This is such a gift as I was catching a few balls earlier, and I really appreciate the support to remember again. Very good. You want to do an experiment? You can show me how you can suffer without catching a ball. Just suffer naturally, just by yourself, just by your being, without using this mind. Who can do it? Easy. And the good thing is that as you're empty of these conceptual ideas, is the truth about who you are missing? It's not missing at all. Your truth, yourself, which you've been struggling so much to find, is so clear to you. Now, what happens for many, and it's happening to many who are coming to me, is that you are trying to translate this recognition into some sort of narration, into some sort of, oh, this is what I found, this is my discovery, is this true? And it is not true. Because your narrative actually gets in the way and creates a new cloud for you, a new blurriness. Because as soon as you give value to that narrative, you're going to lose the innocence of the pure seeing. So don't be in a rush to share what you have recognized. And even if you do share, don't take your words too seriously because they are not true. Nothing conceptual, nothing that is spoken, even the words in Satsang, is in itself true. At best, it is pointing in a certain way. It is doing a clean-up job. Try the reverse with some attention and see. So let yourself be for a moment. Recognize what is here. In this moment, just recognize what is here. And now, accurately translate this into some words. Say something true about this. You see? You will find that you cannot. Even if you say there is nothing, it doesn't mean anything because being is still there, the world appearance is still there, the, uh, the non-phenomenal witnessing is still there. If you say, I am everything, it also doesn't mean anything really. You see, so everything between I am nothing to I am everything, including both of those, don't really actually mean anything true because you're beyond nothing and everything. So 1 minute, 1 moment of your recognition you cannot translate into words. One says even silence is too much to describe this. Yes. Even silence doesn't come close. You see? And for many in satsang, silence has become the escape concept. See, I don't know whether you spot it or not. Just see if you may have this infection. You see? Many times when I'm talking about how words cannot capture it, we hang on to a word which is called silence and we just rest on that. Silence is therefore the best. You see, what happened? You did not go to your silence. You went to the terms saying silence is the best. You took those words to be true, and that is not silence. I wonder if you can spot this. It's a bit subtle. No? So, if it is said to you that words don't capture the truth, it is the nature of the intellect to find the opposite to be true. So, it will then find a new set of words which will say, that's why Bhagavan said silence is the best teaching. You see? And you rest on those words and you miss your true silence because you got waylaid by those words. So give your intellect no place to hide, even the highest words of the highest teachers. Even if it feels a bit wobbly, if the mind is attacking you with all its might, it's okay. Don't rest on a conclusion, whatever the conclusion may be, even this one. Everything that you think you know, everything that you think you are right about is your make believe prison. You think it is holding you up. Actually, it is just your own self definition, your boundaries that you are accepting to be true. Just one last point, maybe, and then we can close. So, many times, as you come to this conceptual emptiness and yet full true knowingness of self knowledge, the mind will attack you with an idea saying that you are not actually finding anything. You see? And many times it will convince you that you just have to pretend as if you're finding something valuable because everybody else seems to be nodding and saying, yes, yes, this is so apparent, it is so clear, this is self knowledge. You see? So the mind will play this game with you where it will try to convince you that when you're empty, open and empty, and this truth about yourself is completely apparent to you, it will just come and tell you, but you're finding nothing. It will just try and convince you like that. And don't fall for that trap. You see? Because you will notice that as you are open and empty, you see, you still are. So what is the source of this information, this knowledge of your very existence? What is aware of that? You are. So this cannot go. Only the layer of bondage, only the layer of dust is wiped clean. That which you are discovering in this very moment is beyond space and time. But don't wait for the mind to give you this certificate. See for yourself with your intuitive eyes. Because if you try to keep convincing the mind that, see, I saw this, this is what it was, why can't you see it? You see, it will only put doubt in your mind, it will only create trouble. In this very moment, are you or aren't you? And who is aware of that? No power in this universe can push this awareness away. It is not something that you can lose or find. if you can be completely fine after 50 years of being in satsang and not be able to show one good answer in your mind as to what you have found, then you're open enough to find this truth now. If you're still hunting for some representation, some conceptual representation of reality, of what is true in words, then it can seem like a struggle. To express the truth in words is a contradiction in terms. Then one says, what is so obvious that we can't even conclude its existence or non-existence? Yes. What is that which is here but cannot be searched for, that you cannot seek, that you cannot find? Everything that you can perceive comes and goes. You can run around and trying to find things or lose things in this space of perception. In your mind also, you get many thoughts, you lose many thoughts, you find many thoughts. In your intellect, you make judgments about many things. The same things which you see are true, you thought were false yesterday, and tomorrow you may again change your position about them. All of these are unstable realms. But there is something which you can recognize right now, which doesn't have this attribute of changefulness. One says, Anantaji, after reading from Sri Ramana Maharishi that all bodily actions are predetermined, I feel like I'm becoming lazy. Is that predetermined, or are you are you doing that now on the fly? You're becoming lazy is also predetermined. Now, this answer is a provisional answer, of course, because the sages have to speak in this sort of provisional way based on the ability or the openness of the disciple. Now, Bhagavan is very clearly told us that yourself, even your being, is not subject to space and time. It is beyond space and time. Now, when we uh, look at concepts like predetermination, they are completely about time, isn't it? So, uh, so because consciousness itself, the self is beyond time. In fact, time and space are nothing but reflections in the light of this consciousness. You see? Therefore, consciousness itself cannot be thought of in this time sort of way. But our human intellect only understands things in this sort of linear fashion. That's why these answers can provide some relief to the intellect provisionally. So, Bhagwan's invitation in that answer is to allow you to let go. Don't try to micromanage your life so much. Don't be so hard on yourself. Just take it as predetermined as God's will. But God itself is not an object in time. In time and space, there are only objects, and God is not an object. So, is God doing this in real time, or He's written a script somewhere and it's just a script playing out? You see? The truth is that it does not apply. These constructs are just constructs within time and for the sake of our human understanding. Otherwise, imagine how it would be. It's like God has a notebook. He and or she has written the script somewhere in that notebook. Now it's also stuck. Like I've written it, I can't do anything about it. But the thing is that it's not stuck in time like that. Time does not apply to God in these ways. So, and it's worth exploring that if you're reading Ramana Maharishi, then then it's worth asking you when you say I feel like I am becoming lazy, which I are you talking about? If you're reading Bhagwan, you couldn't have missed that question, I'm sure. Then you see now, I notice when I am typing that I am identifying with the body. Good, good to notice. So the one who notices is which one? Now notice that. So you say that I notice that I am identifying with the body. Now let's even go beyond the one who is identifying the I am, which is identifying as the body. Let's talk about the one that is noticing this movement of the being I am is also being noticed. What is noticing that? Then you say I can only answer from knowledge. No, it depends on what you mean by knowledge. But if that means you can only answer from the mind, it is not true. Just notice that the mind will also come and go. Who is aware of this mind? So when you are inquiring, don't get into sightseeing. Whatever sights are coming, whatever sensations, perceptions are being perceived, don't get distracted from your inquiry. Ask yourself who is aware of that perception, who is witnessing even that. Otherwise, you'll keep the mind will keep throwing circumstantial evidence at you, conveying the existence of an individual, and will keep falling for that. Whatever may be appearing to you in your inquiry, use that to ask who is aware of that. Don't get caught up, even in peace. If bliss is coming, don't say, oh, my inquiry is going so well because bliss is coming today. Let it come, ask yourself, who is aware of bliss? If anger is coming, frustration is coming, use that. Ask who is aware of this frustration. Very good, very good. One says, Anantaji, may I ask for your blessings to fall into the heart of self-inquiry? Yes. You are my full blessings to remain in the heart of self-inquiry. Don't even make a prerequisite of having to fall into it. You are here now. So may you remain in this simplicity, in this innocence, in this light of simple looking, just simply checking, who am I? Then, just in time, one question comes. I have stopped doing inquiry too these days. The person inquiring, asking the question, who am I, also seems to be the mind. I'm just remaining notionless. If you remain notionless, then nothing has to be done. Then next one says, okay, this is the last one. Master, we give a lot of importance to the mind. Why? And the why is a product of what? Yeah? Why the world is seen or perceived through the mind? Well, I don't say that it is. When perceived through mind, there is duality. Well, let's look at the mechanics of that for a moment. Although these days I've stopped sharing the mechanics so much. Um, what you mean by that probably is that when you're looking at everything through the interpretive filter, you see, which is labeling everything and finding reasons and inferences, and there's a full narrative story about everything. That is what it could mean when you say perceived through the mind, there is duality. In the simple looking, you see, in simple perception, try looking around in the room without any labeling interpretation. Perception can still happen. There is no duality. Nothing is saying I am separate from you. Nothing is saying me and mine and other. It is only the labels which convince us of separation. So in perception, there is no mind. And when you start to narrate, make it part of a story, insert the labels and take the labels to be true. That is what it means when we say perceived through the mind, then there is duality. Now, if you're using another definition of the mind, which means that everything that is unreal, if you're calling that the mind, and you're using the Vedantic definition of reality that everything that comes and goes is not real, then in that way we can say that every perception is also the mind. But we need to clarify the terms very clearly before we start defining. And this distinction, when perceived through awareness or consciousness, nothing affects. So it's not that you're perceiving through, it is only that not putting the label or using the narration of the mind to be real. It's like watching a movie, but the subtitles are messed up. You see? Now you can still watch it and it is fine. It is completely fine. But if you take the subtitles to be real, but actually they are messed up, then it is duality. The movie is actually It's a Wonderful Life. You see? But the subtitles got mixed up with a horror story. Mhm. So when you're taking the subtitles to be the true narration of the movie, then it is going to seem like a horror story. But actually, it is a wonderful life. Thank you all so much for being in Satsang today. Sadhguru Sri Muji Baba ki Jai. Guru Kripa Keval.